if the US administration is sincere about its decision to de-link itself from Israel as far as the Ansarullah and the war on Yemen is concerned, this is a historical event, because it would be the first time in history, or at least since the Israeli occupation of the West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza, that the United States takes a position where it sees itself as a separate political entity and does not align itself with Israel's ridiculous goals in the region. Now, we still don't know what that decision actually means, but what we are being told is that the US and Ansarullah have agreed that they are not going to be attacking each other, but that has nothing to do with Ansarullah's position against Israel. Now, some in American media, Western media, but of course even in Arab media, especially Arab media, are trying to belittle that. And some of them are actually saying, is the Ansarullah's way of kind of surrendering to American demands. Completely ridiculous, of course. Because if you look at the time element here, you will understand. Israel launched its genocide on Gaza on October 7, 2023. Few days later, Yemen stepped in. Ansarullah began sending drones and later rockets towards Israel and targeting Israeli ships in the Red Sea and Bab el-Mandeb in particular, saying that we are doing this in order for Israel to stop its genocide on the Palestinians, because no one else is doing anything about it. And in fact, for the last 570 days plus, nobody did anything about it aside from Hezbollah in Lebanon, Ansarullah in Yemen, and other non-state actors in the Middle East. The Americans that same year launched this operation, bringing few countries together, and they declared a war against Ansarullah. They called it defensive war. We are here just to protect the commercial shipping in the Red Sea, even though only Israel was targeted, and those who were feeding the Israeli economy and feeding the Israeli military to carry on with their genocide against the Palestinians in Gaza were targeted. But fine, they went and they said this is a defensive war. That defensive war in January took on another another step, which is attacking Ansarullah, attacking Yemen, attacking civilian sites in Yemen. And that continued all the way until May. At the end, the Americans realized that there is no point of doing so, that this is another forever war similar to their wars in Iraq, but particularly Afghanistan, and before in Vietnam, in which you know that under no circumstance will the enemy surrender. You know that. So it becomes a war for the sake of war. A war because you lack the political courage to take responsibility for stopping that war. Well, Trump had just decided to stop the war. Again, we're really not sure if he is sincere, if the decision is going to be shifted. Remember, the Americans reneged many times on their agreements, and I'm not talking about reneging on hundreds of treaties with the Native Americans. I'm talking about reneging on the nuclear pact with Iran, the nuclear deal rather with Iran 2015. It was Trump who reneged on that. Israel reneged on the ceasefire with the Palestinians that was signed in January, and the Americans supported them in doing so. So the Americans could in fact renege on this as well. But we are just saying that if they do not, and the war on Yemen, at least the American component of that war, stops, two fundamental things here would be worth thinking about and reflecting upon. Number one, it's the first time in many, many years in which an Arab political entity managed to impose its will on Washington. That's number one. And number two, it is the first time in many, many years in which the Americans de-link themselves politically, militarily, and possibly strategically from Israel. If this becomes the trend, then it's going to get very, very interesting. No wonder why Israel says it is shocked by the decision of Mr. Trump. Let's wait and see. Thanks for listening.